The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. A boy riding his bike was killed when he was hit by a car in Tehachapi yesterday. The Tehachapi Police Department said the boy was hit by a pickup truck that was exiting a parking lot near Tucker Road and Conway Avenue. Officers say the driver did not see the bicyclist. Drugs and alcohol don't appear to be factors in the crash.
Russia is accusing Ukraine of having plans to use a dirty bomb in its own territory, an allegation that Kiev and the U.S. are denouncing as a lie. It comes as Russian attacks are hammering Ukraine's infrastructure. NBC's Cal Perry reports.
8 months into this war, and Ukraine continues to make gains on the battlefield, while Putin exacts a heavy price on the home front. A wave of strikes across Ukrainian cities has put both electricity and water grids on the brink of collapse. The power went out for more than 1 million people all at once, and for many, it remains off. While in the southern city of Mykolaiv, people queue for water, and in the east, a hospital works in darkness. Meanwhile, Russia continues to hold major infrastructure points hostage. And more threats of a dirty bomb. This time, Russia saying Ukraine will do the unthinkable. These so-called dirty bombs are easier to deploy. The delivery system could be in the form of a backpack, not a rocket. The United States, for years, feared terror groups like ISIS would use these crude devices. The Ukrainian foreign minister calling the claims, quote, absurd and dangerous, saying, quote, Russians often accuse others of what they plan themselves. U.S. officials have said they're watching closely, but have no indication either country is preparing a dirty bomb.
Cal Perry reporting. New this morning, an alarming report shows the impact the pandemic had on our local students. The concern, a vast majority of Kern County students are falling behind. The California Department of Education released test scores for last year. Only 38% of students met or exceeded English language arts standards. In 2019, before the pandemic, it was 43%. For math, it is even more troublesome. Only 21% of students in Kern met or exceeded math standards last year. In 2019, it was almost 30%. The difference in test scores is especially profound in third graders. English language arts scores dropped 10 points, while math scores dropped 12. County school officials say while the pandemic was a driving factor in low test scores, lack of familiarity with the testing platform may have also contributed.
This morning, the Kern High School District's Regional Occupational Center will be opening the ROC Cafe and Bakery. The ROC Cafe and Bakery will be open to the public for breakfast and lunch starting today. It will be a full-service restaurant operated by students in the Culinary Arts program. Students will be monitored by an instructor. The program allows kids to put their skills to work in a real-life environment. To view the ROC Cafe and Bakery menu, hours, also visit their webpage, roc.kernhigh.org. Dine-in reservations can also be made at 396-4920. From our 17 follow-up files, some habits die hard. That's the moral of the story along a 3-block stretch of 18th Street in downtown Bakersfield, where the city has aborted plans to implement a different style of parking. 17's Robert Price has the story.
The experiment is over, despite evidence that backing into a diagonal parking space is safer than driving in head first. The city of Bakersfield has thrown in the towel on diagonal reverse parking on 18th Street. The 4-year trial has been relegated to the good idea in theory trash bucket. It was in July 2018 that the city implemented back-in parking on the south side of 18th Street between N and Q Streets, the area around Cafe Smitten. The city said at the time that reverse angle parking gives drivers improved visibility when exiting a parking space into traffic and also makes things safer for people exiting and entering or loading and unloading their vehicles. The idea is not unheard of. Chevron and Shell Oil, for example, encourage employees to practice what's called first move forward parking. Alas, drivers didn't seem to catch on 18th Street. And last month, when the city repaved and repainted 17th, 18th, and 19th Streets, officials decided to revert back to head-in diagonal parking. Head-first parking, as city spokesman Joe Conroy said, is consistent with other diagonal parking in the city, and feedback from the public since reverse-in parking was implemented suggests it created challenges for some drivers.
Most of the feedback we got from the public, people weren't comfortable with it. There were some challenges that some of them dealt with when trying to reverse in with vehicles coming in behind them.
Was that so hard? The increased prevalence of backup cameras on many vehicles was another factor because it lessened the danger of backing out on 18th Street. City Councilman Bob Smith said some good did come out of the experiment. The switch to diagonal parking, whether head-first or reverse-in, narrowed the street's navigable area, and that sent drivers a subliminal message: slow down.
Before, when we measured the speed, it was parallel parking on both sides. Yeah. So the speed was probably faster. Mm-hmm. And as the speed gets reduced, then the need for backing in is reduced.
What this about face likely came down to is aptly summarized in the age-old adage, change is hard. On 18th Street, Robert Price, 17 News.
17 News is your local election headquarters, and today marks just 2 weeks until the midterm election.
One measure on your ballot this election could limit members of the Kern County Board of Supervisors to 2 4-year terms. 17's Michaela Armstrong has more on Measure J.
Measure J proposes to limit the time people can serve on the Kern County Board of Supervisors to 2 4-year terms. Volunteers collected over 20,000 signatures to get the measure on the ballot. Alicia Alleman says without the limit, members of the board are not held accountable.
Currently, you have people who have been on the Board of Supervisors for many years. They made a career out of this. This gives a limit, and you have newer potential leaders that are coming in with fresher ideas to give the opportunity to community to see the changes that they're asking for.
Alleman says the measure helps voters who are likely to keep the same members in office.
It is easy to say just vote them out, but when you remember the name and you see it on the ballot, you're more likely to vote for the person that you recognize the name for.
The 5 current board members are Philip Peters, 1st District, elected in 2020, David Couch, 4th District, elected in 2012, and Leticia Perez, 5th District, elected in 2012. 3rd District Supervisor Mike Maggard was elected in 2006 and is completing his 4th 4-year term and is not seeking re-election. 2nd District Supervisor Zach Scrivener, who won his re-election bid in the June primary, will be sworn in for his 4th 4-year term. The Kern County Board of Supervisors decided in July not to approve a ballot measure for voters detailing term limits.
I also think that we should have at least one other option that would allow a longer, more years of service and a hiatus that would allow people to come back.
Leaving it to a citizen-led effort on ballots this November. Alleman, being a part of that effort, says she is hopeful for the measure's outcome.
For us, we're excited about the changes, the potential, what it means. So I think we're ready for those changes to happen. And just the fact that we were able to collect all those signatures, I think the community is ready to see those changes too.
Michaela Armstrong reporting. Tomorrow, 20th Congressional District candidates Kevin McCarthy and Democratic challenger Marisa Wood will face off right here in our 17 News studios. The outcome of this race could affect the partisan balance of power in the U.S. House of Representatives. Of course, Kevin McCarthy is the House Minority Leader and has been in office since 2007. Marisa Wood is a junior high English teacher in the Fairfax School District. Their live 1-hour debate is happening at 7 o'clock tomorrow night right here on KGET. If you have a question you want us to ask the candidates, send us an email to 17news@kget.com and type the question for the candidates in the subject line.
Making news around the state this morning, and since October 7th, the state has been issuing middle-class tax refunds into millions of California's bank accounts via direct deposit. But now the state is putting debit cards in the mail. The first batch of debit cards is being sent to people who received a Golden State stimulus payment last year, whose last names also start with letters A through E. Everyone in that group should have their payment mailed to them by November 5th. The payments range in size from about $200 to $1,050. How much you get depends on your 2020 income. filing status, and number of dependents. You can calculate the size of your check on our website, kget.com.
Making news around the world, today's the final appeal for WNBA star Brittany Griner, imprisoned in Russia. The two-time Olympic gold medalist who plays for the Phoenix Mercury was sentenced in August to 9 years in prison on drug charges. She was detained at a Moscow airport in February after Russian authorities said they found vape canisters with cannabis oil in her luggage. Griner pleaded guilty, but said she brought them to Russia unintentionally as she packed in a hurry for a flight. Russia has said it's open to a prisoner swap for Griner and fellow American Paul Whelan.
After about a year in recovery from a traumatic car crash, a Shafter police officer is gearing up to go back to work. 17's Marco Torres has more.
Shafter police officer Matthew Sanchez had his leg crushed during a car crash in January. This happened a day after his 28th birthday.
I don't know if I heard the loud brakes squeal or I just heard the car coming. It caught my right leg in between her car and my trunk.
Sanchez says he still thinks about the moment everything sunk in.
I remember laying there for a couple of seconds thinking like, oh, I made the jump. I looked down at my leg and blood was everywhere. My foot was facing the wrong way. Initially, I thought that my accident would be the worst part of it all. But once I got done with all the surgeries and got out of the hospital, that's when life kind of hit me hard.
Sanchez was the sole income for his family, including a 3-month-old baby boy. Things looked grim until the Kern County 999 Foundation stepped in.
I never thought this was going to happen to me. For me, it was like I had never been through this. I had no idea who to talk to. And they came in and sat down with me and, hey, whatever you need, we got you, you know.
The foundation gave more than just money. They gave him friends and a life coach to help him through this trial.
We're able to help the survivors and the injured officers by the community support.
I'm almost able to run. I'm getting close to it, and I should be back to work in November. I'm scared for the future, but I think I'm just going to jump back on it and hopefully just hit the ground running.
17's Marco Torres reporting. The Bakersfield Police Department's asking for help finding an at-risk runaway teen. This is a picture of 14-year-old Michael Davis. He's described as 5'8", 145 pounds, and was last seen wearing a black hooded sweatshirt, blue jeans, and black Vans. Police say he was last seen at Ridgeview High School yesterday afternoon, and that he's a first-time runaway with a medical condition. If you know anything about where he may be, call police at 327-7111.
A community workshop is planned for tonight to address Bakersfield's climate action plan. You are asked to give your input on how to create a sustainable Bakersfield, reduce emissions, and more. The meeting with city staff will be virtual at 6 p.m. If you would like to attend this meeting, you can go to you can register on Eventbrite to get a link to the Zoom. The new Powerball jackpot is now estimated to be $680 million after there were no winning tickets sold in last night's drawing. The drawing will take place tomorrow and is considered to be the 7th largest Powerball jackpot. The jackpot was previously won in August when a ticket in Pennsylvania matched all 5 late balls and the red Powerball to win just over $206 million. Powerball tickets are $2 per play and sold in 45 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.